Hey Brady, it's nice to meet with you again today.
Hello, it's nice to meet with you too.
So to continue on our poetry and expression unit, we're going to be analyzing some poems and reflecting on them. But the whole idea of today is just really reflecting on different events in our lives. And these poems we're going to be reading are reflecting on certain things. So as we go through them, we'll all analyze the first one, and then we'll read The Road Not Taken, and we'll reflect and analyze that poem together. And then we will have some writing prompts for you to reflect on your own stories in life or whatever you want to write about.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm first going to model it. We'll do it together, and then you'll do it on your own. So our first poem is Mother to Son by Langston Hughes. And it says, "Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and splinters and boards torn up in places with no carpet on the floor, bare." So that first stanza to me is just really, I'm going to write this down like we will when we reflect on our poem. So she's talking about how life hasn't been easy. It hasn't been simple. So she talked about the different challenges she's faced a little bit by mentioning the splinters and boards torn up and the places with the no carpet on the floor. So now we'll look at the second stanza and analyze that, and then we'll work together. But all the time, I see been a climbin' on and reachin' landin's and turnin' corners and sometimes goin' in the dark where there ain't been no light. So that stanza to me really just means that even though she has had those hard times and those different things, she's kept going. So she's had a lot of determination. So I can see that because she said she's been climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners. And she sometimes goes where it's dark. So that means even though it's dark, she's kept going and she's kept working at whatever she needed. That's my interpretation of this poem. So the third stanza is, "So boy, don't you turn back, don't you set down on the steps, 'cause you find it's kinder hard. Don't you fall now, for I see still goin', honey, I still climbin', and life for me ain't been no crystal stair." So now this stanza kind of changes a lot of the poem because she was talking about the heartaches of her life, and now she's using it to tell her son never to give up. She's saying he needs to keep climbing, he needs to keep going, and that she's still going. So I'm just going to write that down. She's talking about her son needing to keep his motivation. And I can tell this just because she's mentioning how she's still going and how she doesn't want him to give up. And she's talking specifically to him to teach him something. Did that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to read a poem together. And we're going to analyze it together.
Okay.
And we'll kind of talk about the meaning, and then we will do a writing activity on it. So The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Maybe we'll just listen to it. It's a little easier.
Okay.
The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and, sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler, long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth.
So we're just going to break this into stanzas so it's a little easier. So what do you think that first stanza really was talking about?
He was just talking about how there's two different paths and you can't go down both, so he tried seeing as far as he could down one of the paths.
Okay, so yeah, if you just write that down and kind of write, what do you think he's reflecting on? So our other poem was really reflecting on her life and her life experiences and how she kept climbing up that staircase, and she was really using a metaphor. So what do you think he's reflecting on right now? Do you think it's a physical road? Do you think it's
maybe like choices in his life kind of situation?
Okay. So as you write that one down, we will go ahead and go to the second stanza, and then we'll talk about that one.
Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both.
Okay, so now that we have listened to that one, what do you think that stanza was talking about specifically? Okay, so let's reread it again. So
Okay.
then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and it wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. So he's talking about those two roads, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you see here?
It's grassy.
Okay, which one? Is he comparing them? Is he saying they're the same? Is he saying that one looked better and
He's
that...
saying that one looks better than the other, right?
Well, it's really up for interpretation. So he's saying it's grassy and wanted wear. So if it wants wear, that to me would mean it hasn't been walked on a lot or hasn't been stepped on a lot. So it wants someone. It's inviting. It wants someone to...
So it's been worn less than the other one.
Yeah.
Or walked less, so to say.
All right, so go ahead and write that down. And then we'll work on our third stanza, and then we'll move on to the last one.
That morning, equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back.
So in this, he's saying that he's going on the path that's less, the one that looks less traveled on, right? I think.
Why do you think that?
Because he said, let's see, what is that? I kept the first for another day, so I'm guessing the first means the first path he looked at, and the second path he looked at was the one that was less traveled, right?
Okay. So, and then he mentions he kept it for another day, but he doubted if he should ever come back. What do you think that means? So you compared it to making choices in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if this is about him making choices, he's, from what it seems, he's wondering if he should ever come back to this first decision. So he's making a decision to go one way, but then he's wondering if...
He doesn't think he should go back?
Well, he's saying yet knowing how way leads on to way. So maybe where life takes him, he doesn't ever know if he'll either have to come back or if he should come back to this original decision. So you can go ahead and write that down. And then we'll analyze the last stanza, and then I will give you your prompts, and you will begin to write and reflect on an event in your life.
Okay.
I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere, ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference.
Alright, so what do you think that stanza was representing or talking about?
He took the one less traveled, and it apparently made all the difference.
Okay.
Yes.
And he mentioned that he will be telling this story later on. So do you still think this is about him physically taking a path, or do you think it's about him making a decision in his life, or some circumstances that happened to him?
I think it's probably a decision / circumstances.
Okay, so write about stanza 4.
Okay.
And so this idea of the poem is to really just, like you said, he's reflecting on a choice he made, and sometimes we hear the expression, you want to take the road less traveled.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you want to make a good decision when your friends are making a bad decision. And so he's really just reflecting in this poem on his decision that he happened to make. And so our whole point of this poetry unit and expression and reflection is just to think about some experiences we've had and express on them. So you'll have a choice between 2 writing prompts. I'll read the first one, but they'll also be up on the board for you to see. The first one is discuss a road you have taken that was less traveled. Why did you decide to take this less traveled road? Where did the journey take you? What did this journey teach you? Did traveling this road make a difference in your life? If so, how? So maybe for that prompt, you could talk about a time that a lot of the boys in middle school decided to play sports, but instead of playing sports, you might have taken the road less traveled and done band or choir. And how did that, where did that lead you, and how did that maybe make a difference in your life? And that's just a simple example that I know a lot of you can relate to in class. And then the second prompt you can possibly choose is we all have roads in our lives that we decide not to take. Discuss a road in your life you chose not to take. Looking back, do you regret not taking the road? Why? Why not? How might your life be different today had you taken that road? So this could be about a decision maybe you decided not to make. So, for example, a friend I know is right around the age where she should be having babies, and she chose that she didn't want to have a child in her life. So why did she choose that, and does she regret taking that road or that decision? And how might her life have been different if she had chose the opposite road? So you'll just start to reflect on this piece of paper right over here.
Okay.
And the prompts are right on the board so you can see them and choose what you are going to do. And if you need any help choosing something to reflect upon or just to bounce ideas off of, just let me know.